A sound soul
dwells within a sound mind
and a sound body.
Hello and welcome to Shredded Cels, episode 34. I am your host, Alex Schmitz, and with me here today is Kenneth McNulty,
Also Alex Schmitz.
Mark Goldsmith,
Also Alex Schmitz.
and Andrew Gleason.
Also Vice Alex Schmitz.
We are all Alex Schmitz.
Vice Alex Schmitz?
Yeah, well, I mean, they called it first.
He's working
so-
up to the rank.
I see. Yeah, in case you couldn't tell by that opening and the title of this podcast, we're going to be talking about the anime Soul Eater today, one that we have talked about in the past, but just never got around the chance to doing.
We sang the song.
We did sing the first opening, Residence. I think isn't that what it's called?
Yeah.
I think so. Love that song. Indeed. But before we get to that, there's actually an interesting piece of news that happened recently that we should briefly talk about, since we are an anime podcast that
Well,
talks
of
about
course.
news and all
No.
that. Indeed. Hayao Miyazaki, acclaimed director of most of Studio Ghibli's greatest films, perhaps one of the greatest living animators alive today,
Wow.
has said that he's going to be retiring. He just recently put out a new film called The Wind Rises in Japan, and it's been doing well, and it's getting put over here by Disney. But apparently he's having a press conference tomorrow where he's going to explain his reasons for why he's retiring and everything. So
Doesn't he do that after every movie, though, you said?
Yeah.
apparently for every movie since Princess Mononoke, with the exception of Ponyo, he said he's retiring. So he's sort of done this before, but the way the fact that they're doing a press conference and everything, and the fact that he's 72 years old now makes me think it might be true.
I would believe it, but I don't know. It just seems really weird that he's been saying it. Maybe finally he's decided, but I don't know.
So would this be his last movie? This, what is it? The Wind or...
The Wind is Rising. Yeah, this would
Wind
be
is
this would be his last feature film. He didn't write out the possibility of maybe helping on other works or doing short films or things like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
that's not
Okay,
as bad.
That's fine.
But he's like a wizard of our time. That's like losing Merlin or something. For real?
Yeah.
Animation would never be the
Well,
same.
it's like losing George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, one of the great filmmakers.
Well,
Yeah.
we kind of already lost George Lucas, so...
Well, I'd argue
That's a whole
but
nother
different
bag of
discussion.
worms.
Yeah. So
Well, either way, I mean, he did a lot of good work, so retiring now, it's kind of like height of your career.
yeah, I don't know. I'd love to have him see him make one more movie, or
Just one final
yeah.
last hurrah.
Although, from what I've heard, the Wind Rises, it's had some controversy in Japan because it depicts certain elements of Japanese culture that were sort of taboo at the time. But it's done very well financially, and I believe it did pretty well critically. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. Do you guys know what it's about at all?
Nope.
It's
Not a little bit.
it's a biopic about this guy who designed a airplane, like the Z-bomber, I think it's called.
I have heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah, and
In
it's
World War II?
yeah, the Japanese used a lot of the suicide bombers
Yeah.
apparently used that plane. And it's basically about his life, from when he was a kid to when he grows up, and his ambition and him building this plane and going through his life, basically. And there's a love story in
What's
there
taboo
too.
about it?
I don't know. Basically, there was something about these prostitutes who were there for Japanese army soldiers. I'm pretty sure everyone just sort of accepted that they were there. I think that's what it was. I don't fully understand it myself.
Seems a bit taboo. I can see that.
Yeah. So that's a thing.
But that's not really something for us to.
Yeah. We're not experts on Japanese culture here.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
who are we to say?
We're just here to enjoy the media.
And how beautiful it is.
Yes, and for those of you who are listening to us for the first time, you'd be interested to hear that we are part of Tech Eds, which is part of AVW Productions, a media production organization here at Ohio University. We here at Tech Eds do all sorts of cool stuff with video games, movies, anime, TV shows. We got a blog, we've got a YouTube page, we've got this iTunes page where we post a whole bunch of different podcasts and a bunch of different subjects. And in case you're wondering, why has there been such a long gap between episode 33 and 34? That's because we were on summer break here at Ohio
College.
University, and now we've just gotten back. This is the end of the second week of school, and this is our first podcast of the year. We're actually the first Tech Eds podcast to get going. So,
Yep, getting ahead of the game.
exactly. We're the best podcast, obviously. We're the first one to get going.
I know about that.
Oh, you don't know about that? Yeah, well... Mark and Kenny here are biased because they run their own podcast.
Well, I'm just restarting mine, but that's for another. It's a tale for another podcast.
A tale
And
for
it'll be
another
awesome.
day.
Can't wait.
All right. So real quick, we're going to talk about the animation we've watched since last time. I think I'll probably go last because I watched a lot over the summer. So Kenny, why don't you go first?
All right, strictly animation-wise, over the summer, honestly, I watched Bravest Warriors like I always did because they released a few minisodes, which were really good. I enjoyed them. Hilarious. Eyebrows were gone. It was cool. I watched, when I got back here before this, the Gurren Lagann movie, which was, both parts of the movie. Absolutely fantastic. Changed my life for a different time, but needless to say, probably the best movie I've seen anime-wise. And I think that's about it, animation-wise. I didn't watch too much. I watched like movies and stuff, but not too much animation.
I see. So you weren't watching like any of the things on TV, or did you rewatch anything?
No, not really.
Not really. Okay, very good. Mark, how about you?
Animation wise, I always like regular show.
Yes.
I watched some Adventure Time, all that stuff. Bravest Warriors, Bee and Puppy Cat. There's one animation that I'm really excited for this upcoming year, and I think it's called Steven Universe.
Oh, is that the one with the girls with the powers and stuff? And
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
got
like it's about this group of girls who have powers of like different gems, and there's one guy who has a gem like in his stomach, and he's like a kid, and it just seems very silly, and it's by one of the people who helps
Pendleton Ward.
make Adventure Time.
Yeah, he's part of that crew.
So it looks really interesting. I'm really excited to see that. I always rewatch One Piece, and I've been showing Kenny.
Actually, I've been watching One Piece. Yeah, that is one thing.
and my friend Clara, I'm trying to show people the arcs of Water 7 through Enies Lobby. I really, really love One Piece, and to friends who are kind of nervous about watching it from the beginning and stuff, I just kind of want to show them some arcs that might get them interested and make them want to watch more of it. And for the first time, I saw the Gurren Lagann movies, which were awesome. Gurren Lagann is my favorite series, bar none, as far as finished series. One Piece is my favorite, just in general. But to see the movies of Gurren Lagann, it was fantastic, and it was so much more fun seeing it with a whole group of people, because a lot of people, Kenny specifically, were just so into the movie and so excited.
You can't not scream with them.
It's
really can't.
we were screaming at like midnight. It was just the best.
No complaints could have happened.
I really suggest watching Gurren Lagann, the series and the movie.
Yeah, well, I bought the two movies, are both available on iTunes for $13 each HD. So I bought the two of them and wanted to watch them when we got back. And now we screened them once with Kenny and you, Andrew, and a couple other people. And then we did it again more recently for Amy and Eugene, who are also part of Tech Heads. So Mark and I have now seen both those movies like twice within about a week period.
Which it was a little much for me, but to see Gurren Lagann, I mean, I could watch it all day.
To see fresh people see it, especially.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
So what about you, Andy?
All right.
Andrew.
I'm trying to think. What did I watch this summer? Because I started a lot of things. Okay,
Digimon.
I did actually watch Digimon. I finally finished the 3rd season of Digimon.
Oh, what did you think
Awesome.
of Tamers?
It was really good. Like super good, and it got like really dark. And the last like arc of that show is about them defeating this little girl's depression.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
Seriously, that is the plot of that show.
I
by the end.
didn't watch Tamers when I was younger, but I saw there's this anime review I've talked about before called Yezo Taku. She's a big Digimon fan. She did like these recap videos where she like talked in depth about like all the series. And her one for Tamers was really interesting because I like didn't realize how dark it got,
It got
later
dark.
on.
It got really dark.
Tame
really
and
good.
Depression.
Was Tamers the one where they transform into Digimon?
No, that's
Okay,
it's the
good.
one where they're in the real world.
Because I do not personally, I don't like the one where they turn into Digimon, because that just takes out the whole dynamic of the show that I really liked.
Yeah, I saw that. That's like the 4th season. It was epic. Like it got to the like levels of like, you know, like the digital world is literally being like torn asunder, and like the villains were actually like really threatening, and it did some cool things. But you do lose that dynamic between the Digimon themselves and their partners, because instead it's basically the humans inhabiting the spirits of like dead Digimon, I guess.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
That is interesting. I heard it described as basically just Power Rangers crossed with Digimon.
Wait, are they
so-
kids in that?
They're more teenagers, but they're still
The
kids.
teenagers with the power of dead creature god things.
Yes.
Sort of.
Saving the digital world.
Of course.
Pretty much.
Awesome, but terrifying.
So anyway, sorry. I finished Tamers, which was really, really good, and a lot of interesting character development in that, which was surprising to me. There's like there's a side character. A lot of side characters get like full character arcs in that show, which is always a nice thing to see in TV shows. I started watching Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan.
Good
try.
Sorry.
Sounds cooler.
It's been a while since I watched it. I didn't.
Yeah, you said you got 4 episodes in?
Yeah.
Okay, see, I tell everyone who watches that, well, how could you get to episode 4? Because at the end of episode 4, there's this big cliffhanger for the next episode. It's like so epic.
I think I was like falling asleep, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch it tomorrow, and then I just like never
Didn't
did.
happen.
I know.
Like, you know how that happens? Like, you're like, I'm gonna watch that tomorrow, and then you just forget about it.
I always tell everyone you have to get to at least episode 5, because episode 5 is where it really
You always
hit
have a
me.
cutoff for every show. There's
Well-
always one. Like Madoka was 3. Remember that?
Yeah.
Madoka's 3, Gurren Lagann's what, 8?
8, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yep.
this is 5.
Well, yeah, it's basically where the stuff gets real in
Yeah,
those
where the
episodes.
stuff goes
Gets
down.
real. At least that means Attack on Titan gets pretty real pretty fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, it gets real in episode 1. I mean,
does.
geez, it's
No,
dark.
it is.
It's lovely, but it's dark.
It was really cool, and I was enjoying it. Like I said, I don't know what happened. Like, I just never
I know.
did it.
I will say, those like episodes 3 and 4, like them sort of training to
Yeah.
become the best, become the soldiers and everything. Later on in the show, you get to see them actually like fighting titans
No,
and using the 3D maneuver
that
gear.
looks really awesome.
And it's really awesome.
I mean, I guess my biggest problem was like I've seen like, oh, this character sucks at his training thing, but he's going to get really good later. I've seen that thing before, and I guess I was just kind of like,
Yeah, the characters aren't the most like, unique necessarily, because Aaron's the pretty typical, shonen guy who's not necessarily the best at being a soldier, but he's got the most spirit,
He's got
and that's
spirit,
what counts,
yeah.
basically.
and
Spirit
then
counts for love.
obviously Soul Eater was near the end of summer. I was like, I should watch this show.
And it changed your life.
It did not change my life.
I'm
It
so
wasn't
sorry.
like Gurren Lagann where I, start yelling quotes at people.
Good.
It's like a
It's
step down.
It's a really
Did you start
quotable
yelling
show.
"fool" at people as you passed them by?
I have yelled fool at my friends before, just because it's fun.
Fuck at me.
And I'm trying to think. There was something else we watched. I know my friend showed me Van Helsing Ultimate Abridged.
Oh, I love that's by the guys who do Team 4-Star who do
Yeah, it's by Team
DBZ.
4-Star.
I love those.
If you haven't seen
Excuse
those,
me, Alex.
Sorry.
I honestly think that those are the absolute funniest abridged things ever.
Yeah, well, I compare it to the DBZ abridged because they keep like the epic moments from the show are still pretty epic in Helsing, and they also keep pretty true to the violence and vulgarity
Yes.
of Helsing Ultimate because it is very bloody and they swear a lot. And they do the same thing in the abridged series. They just make it funnier, basically.
They do, and I love that. And then what?
No, I'm right with you there because actually my friend over the summer showed me the first episode of Helsing.
You
and
haven't seen
then-
Helsing before?
No, and then the abridged series right after.
I haven't seen the abridged one though.
I laughed.
You have to watch the abridged.
so hard.
It
Because
is.
I've seen a lot of Helsing, but
So
I've never.
funny.
I have not seen a funnier abridged series. Like DBZ is hilarious. And,
Is it better than
and-
DBZ?
Well, it's hard to say because it's only 3 episodes.
Yeah, like
But it can still be funnier than
I-
compared to the first 3. Which is better than.
How about this? There are moments in the DBZ abridged series that I love and that are hilarious, but like in general, almost like every line in Helsing abridged
Seriously.
was just
it's
hilarious.
so it's
I feel like I
so
need to watch this
quotable.
now.
You have to watch it. There's 3 episodes. It's so
It will change my
quotable.
life.
It is so funny. We yell so many quotes from that like all the time.
I'm just curious, real quick, Kenny. When you say you've seen Helsing, do you mean Helsing Ultimate or Helsing the older TV show?
Both, because one of my friend's favorite series, the one who showed me Ava, actually, like he's the one who shows me all the animes I love. We watched a lot of the original together, and I've seen like the ending of it, and then like he started showing me Ultimate. He's like, "This is how it's supposed to be done." I'm sorry, I showed you the other one.
How
and then
many?
I watched
How
it.
many of Ultimate have you seen?
Probably like 3 or 4. I didn't watch most of
Okay,
it.
because there's 10 in total, and later on it gets really ridiculous.
Well, I mean,
and
I've seen
awesome.
what can happen, like what they do. He skipped ahead to some epic parts, and I was like,
Yeah, no, I want to do that for the podcast eventually because it's just bloody, ridiculous action, but the animation's really cool. And
I'd watch it after watching Helsing Ultimate Abridged. I'd watch the actual show.
Yeah.
Also, I finally sat down to watch all of DBZ Abridged.
all of it. Oh,
the
British.
abridged.
Not
Okay,
the
I was like,
actual
what?
show. No, not the actual show.
took my friend a year to do
I'm
that.
like scared of that show. After watching
the,
the
the,
Abridged.
the line of what is it? Are you okay in there? Oh yeah, it's just ice cream and gumballs in here. Oh really? Can I have some?
I'm surrounded by idiots. But I thought you were surrounded by gumdrops and ice cream.
I was literally in tears when Goku was fighting Frieza.
Oh, yeah.
I was crying because that was so funny.
I'm sorry we keep going on tangents, but that just reminded me of if you've ever seen was it Dragon Ball PP or whatever by I think it's Onigi, and it makes me laugh so hard when he's like, you won't take me down, Freezy Pop.
Defeating a sandwich only makes it tastier.
Nice.
Alex, have you watched anything over the summer?
Just a few things, Mark. Just a
Let's
few.
start the list.
Only a few?
Yes, only a few. Because I kept up with a couple of like the spring anime, like that was going on in the spring anime season. Then also
Animu.
started following some over the summer. Rewatched some old things, watched some things I had been wanting to do, and I bought a whole crap ton of anime over the summer. So,
Did you watch Madoka again?
actually, yes, I did.
I expected as much.
What a surprise.
I actually watched the English dub, which it's not a bad dub, but this Japanese version is definitely superior.
Is
I think.
Cube done by Morgan Freeman?
No.
I've come to make a wish contract.
Yeah, it would be a contract, not a wish.
A wish contract.
A wish contract.
I
Okay.
wish to make a contract.
So let's get through this thing. I've been watching Attack on Titan, as made obvious earlier. A show called Suisi no Gargantia. Don't know how the hell to pronounce that, but good show by Production IG. Devil's a part-timer. Watch a film 5 centimeters per second. It's one of my favorite anime films now. Really love that. Garden of Words, done by the same director. Really good. Wolf Children, which is done by the director of Mamoru Hosoda, who did Summer Wars and The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. That's his newest film. And I actually have it pre-ordered for the English Blu-ray when that comes out in November. So we'll have to watch it when I get that because it's really good.
Yes.
I've been watching a show called Blood Lad, Sunday Without God, Danganronpa, Nichiju, which I definitely want to do for the podcast at some point because that's the single funniest anime I've ever seen.
Is that the one where you...
I was gonna say, by the way, I totally forgot. I also watched Danganronpa and Nichiju, although I've only seen like 3 episodes of Nichiju, and still watching
Danganronpa?
I'm always watching Gurren Lagann.
Wait.
No, but yeah, I'm watching
Eternally
some
watching it.
But wait,
Danganronpa.
Nichiju, is that the one where the principal tackles the thing?
The
deer?
deer.
Oh, that's Nichiju. Yeah,
That's, now I was gonna say that's Nichiju. That's what I meant to say.
and then
Funniest thing I've ever seen.
and then Danganronpa is the one where essentially an evil version of Winnie the Pooh is principal.
Well, half's fun, half's not.
Pretty much. Yeah, no, I've been enjoying Danganronpa. You know, it's good for the mystery elements. Like I was talking to Mark the other day, some of the character motivations aren't always the most well developed, but I'm still enjoying the show. It's still ongoing, so I'm
Yeah.
interested to see where it goes from where it is right now. I'm watching this comedy called Servant X Service that I've actually really been enjoying. Watched this film called Letters to Momo. I got Korra Book 1 on Blu-ray. It looks really pretty in HD. Thank you. I rewatched Madoka, rewatched Steins Gate, Fate Zero. I was showing a lot of these to my sisters. My sister Olivia, her -- favorite anime is now Steins Gate because it tore at her heartstrings so bad and she loved it so much.
The only thing I know about that's the scene you showed me about the guy who's like, or the girl, person who looks like a girl, but it's a guy or something like that.
Yeah, that's in the second episode. I think Matt showed us that
Yeah, he's
before
like,
I'd
also
even
a
seen it.
man. Boom.
Yeah, no, Steins Gate is like, it's really funny. It's got great characters, but also gets really dramatic and sad at certain points, and that's what makes it so powerful. Rewatch. This is an anime film, but have any of you guys ever seen The Secret of Kells before?
Nope.
It's like done by it's like Celtic style. It's like by a European like animation studio. It's like this very flat like 2D look, but it's very pretty. They have it at the library actually. I've gotten it from there before. I rewatched The Disappearance of Haru Suzumiya. I saw a little bit of Garden of Sinners, Azumanga Daioh, which I now own because that show is amazing. I watched a little bit of Phantom Requiem for a Phantom, which I did not complete because I was getting a little bit bored with it. Watched a little bit of Brotherhood, a little bit of Sword Art Online since that was on Toonami.
Did you do anything else this summer?
Oh, I did. I had an internship and I was working. I was doing
so
lots
many
of stuff.
anime.
All the anime. What? I also watched the two Madoka recap movies came out online, so I watched those. I watched the short called Voices from a Distant Star, Children Who Chase Lost Voices, Place Promised in Our Earlier Days, a show called Watamote that's still ongoing, like 3 episodes of Shinseki Yori, which I did not like that much, and I watched all of Guilty Crown, which was pretty good, but not the greatest thing ever.
My God.
So many. How do you have to write this down while you're watching?
No,
When did you sleep?
He didn't. He just said anime all the time.
All the anime work anime while working.
But
come
how do you
home,
remember-
more
It's okay.
anime.
It's okay. I'm the same way as Alex, except replace all that anime with just repeats of One Piece.
Because that's all you need.
Just repeats
All
of
One Piece.
I
One
will-
Piece and
Everything
Gurren
else.
Lagann.
I'll fully admit, just real quick, like 10-second little spiel here. One Piece, after I used to watch it when I was younger, but watching it now, I have more of appreciation for it. It is really, really good. Like, arguably, it's just because you can see the progression of everybody. I really like that anime.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's
glad.
amazing. And yeah, to be perfectly honest, like a lot of it, well, my summer was like I'd get done with work, come home, watch like the new anime that had come out that day for like the summer season, and watch like Rooster Teeth videos on YouTube and like catch up on my YouTube stuff. Like that was a lot of my summer.
Well, what about
YouTube
friends?
I hang out with my friends sometimes too.
Sometimes.
Hey, and maybe sometimes they come over and watch anime with him.
It's true, actually. We would
Just keep them
sometimes
captive.
Tie them down.
I was showing one of my friends Attack on Titan, and he got pretty into it. So.
I want to watch it. Just don't have the time.
Yeah, well, I own that on my iTunes, so we're gonna have to watch it sometime.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, I told you I had a lot, but we got through it all.
Whoa, wait. So what are we here to talk about again?
Oh, I forgot. Oh well, I guess that's the end of the show, guys.
That's fine. We had a good show.
Exactly.
JK,
no,
guys.
We're actually here to talk about Soul Eater, as I
Whoa,
mentioned earlier, which is a 2008 show done by Studio Bones, the same studio that does such things as Full Metal Alchemist,
Say
Full Metal Alchemist
what?
Brotherhood.
Very, very, very good.
Indeed. I hadn't realized, actually, I initially thought Soul Eater was a bit of an older show, but it's actually 2008. Like, you know,
it's pretty recent.
HD and all the animation is pretty high quality.
Yeah.
So, everyone here has seen the entirety of the show, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. And has everyone here seen it in dub or sub?
I watched the dub because I watched it over Netflix freshman year with Chris.
That's right.
I've seen some of the dub, but I watched the whole series with the sub.
I watched it on Netflix, so it was dubbed. So
I did see the original version. You showed me the original version of Excalibur singing, which is still in English, but it's the English, so it's
the
hilarious.
English. It's even better. Yeah, I watched the series, like, first time I watched it all on YouTube, subbed, because it's all there subbed, but not dubbed legally on Funimation's YouTube channel. And then I bought it on Blu-ray, because it was only like 30-some bucks for like 51 episodes. It's like, oh, that's a pretty good deal. And rewatched it there in English. And I have to say, like, you can't go wrong either way. Like, the sub's really good, but the dub's really good, too.
The dub is impressive compared to most Dangerous, but that's a really well dubbed one.
Oh, yeah.
The only complaint at first I had was I didn't really like Black Star's voice because it was just really high.
I'm here to kill God!
But as the series went on, I kind of like grew to have an appreciation for it because even with the high voice, when he did get those like intense moments, it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, you can tell it's a woman doing it, but at the same time, like, I sort of had that problem with Black Star in English as well as in Japanese just because of his character. Because at first you're just like, oh my god, you're so freaking annoying.
Well,
But
I
then-
liked his character.
see,
In the beginning,
like-
he did bother me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the first season, I refused to learn his name. I just referred to him as Naruto the whole time.
No, literally,
I was
everybody
like-
pointed that out. I mean, it's true.
I'm like, you're just Naruto. Like,
Because what is his voice in Japanese, though? Like, is it still higher, or is it different?
It's higher, but it's
Not like it is in English.
it's not
It's
like it is in
different.
English.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to explain.
Because when I saw him for the first time, I thought he'd be like, "My name's Black Star," but he was like, "Black Star," and I was like, "What?" And Chris was like, "Just deal with it." And eventually, don't get me wrong, he's one of the coolest characters. He's arguably the most powerful out of them.
Well,
so
for me at least, like I said at first I hated Black Star, like when he's like, I'm gonna be the one who surpasses God, you know, and just being his high energetic, like ridiculous self, you know, stupid self. But what really made me sort of respect him a bit more was that episode with him and Tsubaki where she goes inside the enchanted sword, you know,
Mifune.
and he's sat down there in the town, like all the townspeople come out and like beating him up with like the sticks, and he's just sort of taking it. You know, and he's like bleeding all over the place. And then one of them goes to like hit Tsubaki and like grabs his arm and is like, don't you dare do that, you know? So it's moments like that where like Black Star showed off his badassery and that he really like does care, that I came to like
and
actually
every
really
fight
like
with the
him.
samurai guy, I can remember his name.
Mifune.
That's Mifune, yeah.
was one of my favorite characters because of the
Hands down.
I forget, but isn't it like infinite sword
Yeah,
style
he
or
shoots
something?
them all down. I
Yeah.
love when they fight. Like, and finally, in the end, oh man,
Yep.
that's for later, but still.
Oh yeah, no, Mifune is one of my favorite characters too. So I was figuring, you know, rather than talking about the show like episode by episode, because there's a lot of episodes to talk about, we might as well just sort of talk about like some of the characters, you know, and use them as the vehicle for our discussion today.
Good.
Indeed. Well, and since we started talking about them already, what do you guys think of like Black Star / Tsubaki as characters? As far as their partnership and their individualities.
Well, they have a good symmetry together because he's the over the top, I'm going to punch everything in the face and do it well. But she kind of shuts him down sometimes. Like, you can't do everything like that all the time. She's like his opposite to keep him in check. But they work really, really well together because she can put up with him and nobody else can. They point that out in the series. Like, how do you put up with him? She's like, and she points out, like, he does have a good side. Like, as ridiculous as he can be, he really does care and wants to help people. So they really work together well, especially when he gets the sword working and that thing just cuts things in half and it's badass. Like in the end, in fact, she can turn to different weapons. I just thought that was cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh, like when she could turn into the smoke star.
Yes,
and
it was
all
so
that
cool.
stuff.
All the stuff they had.
Yeah.
And the huge, remember, it was like the sickles, right? Like there was that.
Yeah,
there
the
was the
sickles with the
giant,
chain.
like shuriken. I don't know if they had a name for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was like a bunch.
Yeah, she had a couple different abilities. That was apparently, they explained that was like I don't know what you call it, the power of their family. Like she got all of those, powers, whereas the brother just got like the enchanted sword, where he thought he was going to get like inherit all the power.
Oh, and another thing that I really loved was that one move Black Star had where he would like shock your soul or something.
Yeah. Oh, he was the only one that could do that. He had the soul resonance thing where he would just destroy you.
Yeah. That was really cool.
That was cool.
I love that because he could take on anybody hand to hand. Everybody else had to have their weapons for the most part in the beginning, and he just goes up and does that. I was like, whoa! Like when I watched it, Chris had already seen it. He just wanted me to see it, so every time I freaked out, he was just like, "Yeah." But
Yeah, I will say there are a couple times where Death the Kid does some hand to hand combat, and he's pretty awesome there too.
Yeah.
But
Andrew, what do you think?
Black Star?
Yeah.
Like I said, I refuse to learn his name because I'm like, you're just Naruto. But as he went on, he actually got like better. Like he get more character development. Like, and he became like, he cares about Tsubaki, like the episode where she picked up she fought her brother in the enchanted sword mode thing. That was a really good episode, and like a good episode that shows how they work together. And because my biggest problem was I thought Tsubaki for the longest time was just kind of like a bland character that like. Because compared to the rest of them, where they're all like crazy and have what are basically just excessive personality disorders. Seriously, I have this
pretty much.
She was just very normal.
Yeah, she was like the straight man for them, which is good to have. But like I felt it made her kind of bland in comparison. But she started coming to her own with the enchanted sword mode, and then he came into his own with his constant fights with Mifune, and I like that. I mean, he became like, I don't know, like a better version of Naruto.
There you
it's a
go.
good way to put it.
better Naruto.
yeah, well, I felt that a little bit too because obviously Tsubaki is like the super nice one, who he gets along with everyone. Is like, she's always like saying like Black Star, why are you doing that? But she's usually pretty submissive, towards them. She's like doesn't like to make confrontations and all that, which sort of like you said, she wasn't the most developed, but then you get that episode where they go with her brother and you get the whole like camellia blossom thing, like how it was a flower with no fragrance. And like basically like she felt like she was like nobody, nothing special or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Which I thought that they hammered that in like maybe a bit too hard in that episode because it's like every other line they're saying camellia blossom, flower with no fragrance, blah, blah, blah.
I think that also kind of outlines the fact that why she gets along with Black Star so much though is because Black Star makes her feel like she is someone, and he's like, "You're going to be the one that helps me become more than like
defeat God."
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like if that doesn't help you feel like a somebody,
I don't know what else would.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice because he does like obviously like give her just as much credit as she deserves too. Like it's not like he ignores her all the time.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, because obviously she's the weapon, and they work really well together, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah. And what about Death the Kid and Liz and Patty?
Death the Kid was one of my favorites
He's a
because
hoss.
I laughed so hard when he just did anything with the whole symmetry stuff.
You don't expect it in the beginning. He walks in looking all intense, and then one thing's wrong. He's on the ground. Like,
And he does that thing where he's like stomping his feet and he's like, Liz, Patty, you're off. Like, I can't do this.
like what?
Yeah.
But the things he points out sometimes, you're just like, and his hair. Every time they point out his hair, they're like, don't talk about his hair. And he's done.
Okay, maybe you guys will remember because it's been a while since I saw this episode, but it was an episode where he was flying. He was on his board on the water, and like he saw the sun or something, and he was
Oh,
like going
yes.
crazy, like he was going in
I
hysterics.
remember.
Oh, yeah, I remember
What
that.
was that?
That's an episode where they're chasing after Krona, like he turns into like that dragon thing and starts flying away, and they're chasing him.
yeah,
I think
that's
it's
right.
distracted by like the sun is like perfectly aligned in the sky or something, and he lets Krona get away basically.
No, what it was the
His fatal
clouds
flaw.
parted, and from where he was looking, the sky was finally symmetrical.
It was the most
And
beautiful thing you've ever seen.
he'd stopped the pursuit just to stare and and they're like, what are you doing? We gotta go. You're like, but the sky is symmetrical.
I'm just like, Death, you're so awesome, but what are you doing?
I can't remember. Do you ever find out whose mom is? Like, is that ever a thing?
No.
No, they
Yeah, I was gonna say,
never talk about
I guess
his
Death
mom
could
or
have just
reference it.
made him. 'Cause
Yeah.
Death has that power.
Well, in the manga, they sort of hint at how Shinigami are made, and they don't really go into that in the anime.
Well, either way, yeah. I mean, one thing I like though is like I can't, like, unless I'm completely wrong, I don't remember many other of the I want to call them champions, any of the other Meisters having like ballistics weapons. He's one of the few. He's the one that used pistols, obviously.
Right.
And just the way he shot them, I liked that. He held it upside down and used his pinkies to shoot it. I just thought that was sweet.
Yeah, it's basically like he's just doing it for style because there's like
But it's
no
awesome.
other reason to do it. Yeah, one thing we didn't talk about is like, Soul Eater is a little bit unusual in that the first 3 episodes of the show are pretty much like focusing on the 3, each episode focuses on one of the pairs, basically introducing us to the main characters of the show, and then like the plot really gets going like episode 4, 5, 6, with all of them together. And I thought out of all those 3, like I love the first episode with Maka and Soul where they fight that one like creepy Jack
the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper guy. Like that's one of my favorite fights in the show, just because the animation was so fast paced and beautiful there.
Yeah.
But Death the Kid's episode, the 3rd episode, was so funny just because you got his whole like perfectionist thing and how he liked things like to be super clean and all that. It was. Because remember, he's fighting the mummy guy, and he's like, I can't
He's getting
dare fight the
pummeled.
mummy. Like, the sarcophagus is perfectly symmetrical.
And then it shows its face.
And then it opens up, and it's like this ugly thing, and he's like, disgusting, 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 and bless.
and it beat him up like 8 times.
And it's so funny because it literally showed that he was willing to die
for symmetry.
for symmetry.
Which is really cool. I felt like about his character. He has because he's like one of the most powerful because he's Death's kid, but he has that fatal flaw which shows itself every time.
And a lot of people got mad because people I've talked to, just friends who have seen it, they got mad because they're like, Death the Kid would be so cool if he wasn't so stupid with the symmetry thing. But in my opinion, he would have been overpowered if he was always competent, because if he was always competent, I mean, you saw him when he fought seriously, he just wrecked
There's
everything.
nothing that
He
could,
did.
especially when he got his what did he call it? His arm
The
cannons.
cannons?
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
just completely obliterates something.
Pretty much. Yeah. Shoot, I was going to say something. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because I said, show is great in both sub and dub. But I will say Vic Mignogna doing Death the Kid, I think he's even better than the Japanese
Yeah,
Seiyu.
it was hilarious.
Oh, yeah. He owned that role totally. Once again, proving that Vic Mignogna is just awesome in general.
Isn't he pretty famous?
He is pretty darn famous.
Pretty famous.
Didn't he play that one guy?
He played that one guy, and that one thing with that
plays
one chick.
he plays a lot of those one guys.
That's right. Yes, I know. I actually heard like a lot of big name like voice actors were in.
Oh, yeah. No, well, this is a Funimation dub, and
Yeah.
they got a pretty all-star cast for Soul Eater, which is obviously why it's so good. What did you guys think of Liz and Patty real quick? Because I kind of love their whole dynamic, like how Patty is like scared of ghosts, but at the same time she's usually the responsible one, whereas Liz is always just like being silly and ridiculous.
And Gun Ho.
One
Yeah.
of my favorite parts in the series, as far as Liz and Patty goes, is
I think I know what you're gonna say.
when they were taking the test, and and I think it's Liz. Liz is in the back taking her test and making animals out of it,
Yeah, I
like
forgot.
paper animals. Correct me if I'm wrong. She makes a giraffe
Yep.
and starts annoying someone with it, and that was hilarious.
No, that is a funny moment.
I remember Liz was losing it the whole time.
And-
or no, Patty's.
And when Death the Kid breaks his test because he can't write his name
That's right, I
perfectly,
forgot.
and he tries to erase it, and he erases his test so hard that it rips, and he freaks out so hard that blood explodes out of his face, and he faints.
I forgot about that. And like Patty's like, what happened? And Liz is still doing the thing in the background. Everybody else is like,
Yeah, well,
that episode was awesome.
it was great because I think I want to say it was Soul, I think, was trying to cheat off of Death the Kid because he had like tried to like bring a paper into class or whatever, and Sid the zombie caught him, and he was like looking over like, oh, Death the Kid is really smart. I'll go look at his test, and he was writing this really intricate D like for death, and that's like as far as he got. He's like, what are you doing?
That's the kind of man I was.
Yeah, but one of my favorite moments with Liz and Patty, I forget which one it is. It's like one of those moments where Death is like. That's right. It's where they're going after the Keishan, and he comes to that room that's full of the frog, which is little bombs are everywhere. And he's like, oh, it's so unsymmetrical. You know, it's just placed haphazardly. I can't go on. You know, he's in his little depression.
Yeah.
And then Patty's like, Liz, do your little way of persuading him. Oh. And she just goes like, okay, sis. Get your ass in gear. And he starts crying, like going way ahead. He was like, "You're so mean, Liz."
I forgot about that. He starts shooting everything and he's crying.
and she's just cracking up.
Yeah,
Love her.
I know.
She's funny.
I think there's even another episode where she's like kickboxing with like a bunch of the students, and she's kicking like everyone's ass. It's like,
Well, that's because before they were like gangsters.
Yeah, they rough people up.
Yeah.
yeah, and the only reason Death chooses them is because he was looking for 2 weapons so he could be symmetrical.
Yeah, it's up in their twins.
Oh my gosh! And when in the first episode when he was talking about how their body proportions
No, I was
were
thinking
not,
that earlier,
were
but I
not
wasn't gonna say
symmetrical,
it.
and
He's like,
and I'm
he's like, even your breasts are the different size, and they're like, oh, come on.
I'm just like, really, Death?
I wasn't
really?
going to say it, but I remembered that. So.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
And that's just how great of a dynamic trio they are.
of course.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. And then we move on to our main characters,
Soul.
Maka and Soul. And like I already said, I love that first episode with that awesome fight with the Jack the Ripper guy. And then you get that whole thing with Blair the witch, the cat witch.
You mean the
Yeah.
nosebleed lady?
Yeah.
Yes, the requit fan service
It's-
character.
She's
in
there
the
like
show.
3 times.
It's really funny because Soul and Maka are not my favorite characters, but they are my favorite duo.
Well, it's because they have the most like intensive, like almost. I guess they
Partnership.
all have their own, but they have a really contention. Like they fight. They have like the huge. I can't remember. It's later on in the series. I mean, they have a lot of like more arguments, I'd say, almost than any of the other ones.
Well, yeah, Maka is definitely the protagonist of the show, so they get more development probably
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
anyone else, really. But I know I just love like Soul with like his whole like that's not cool, you know, like everything has to be cool, and he's
Yeah.
always like this really deep like laid back attitude. Like you
got,
can't
like,
help
sharp
but
teeth.
sort of be like that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's cute.
And
And in fact, he's a scythe.
what was that in the first episode when he said something along the lines of, "I would never do anything bad to a woman or to my partner. That would be so uncool," or something. When Maka thinks that he's abandoning her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Because like the whole thing is Blair is like, "You got to come with me," and he like fakes her out for a second, and then he's like, "I'd never do something that uncool." And Mock comes
Yeah.
up, scythe, chop.
And just the way he
Chop her
said
in half.
that, I thought that was.
Yeah, she hits him in the head all. She shows us the Maka chop,
Maka
right? That's
chop.
what. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
yeah, with the book and just
I love Maka. And it is sort of interesting, for like all the other Meisters, we got Black Star as the Meister and Death the Kid as the Meister. Maka, the main character, being the female and the dude being the weapon. That's sort of a different dynamic, but it works really well because like Maka, she's not the strongest fighter on the team, but she's pretty badass in her own right.
Oh yeah.
And she's really, really ambitious when it comes. She's like the smartest. Like when it comes to just book smarts, obviously she is
Top of
the
the
one.
game.
Yeah, and then of
boy.
course her dad is an interesting fellow.
Yes. Oh man, her dad. I on the one hand, the dad is like a scumbag because he's like, going with all these other women and like apparently like did all these things where like
the ladies.
I'm sorry. He tried to, like apologize to the mom who divorced him, but then he would always like go back to his not evil ways, but lecherous ways, let's say.
He had that
Yeah.
special house with all the ladies. That's right.
Right, but he there were many times throughout the show where he showed like they really legitimately cared about Maka, and you see him get serious a lot in the second half of the show, when like
Yeah.
the DWMA is in danger. And the part where I probably felt the worst for him was like it was Maka's birthday and he told Blair to go buy her like a book, and give it to her. And then Blair apparently went and spent the money like on lingerie and is like, oh, well, I'll just give this to her anyways. You know, be like, here you go, Maka, this is from your dad. And it's like this really skimpy outfit. And she just gets like this most horrible look on her face. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I know. I felt bad for him because he did seem like he cared about his daughter and wanted to.
But
He just didn't know how.
Yeah,
he'd fail almost every time.
He just doesn't know how to talk to a woman and not that way.
he's kind of a mess up. But
a little bit. Wasn't he? He's a death site. That's the word for it, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
one of the
I think
actual
so.
death sites. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's the first death site.
He's Death's personal
meet.
death site. So,
Yeah.
Which makes him, he's stupidly powerful. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Speaking of which, if we can move on to a different character, one of my favorite characters was
Stein.
no, yes, one. But, another character I really liked was isn't his what like couldn't we just call him Shinigami or what was his?
It was what
was his
in
actual
Japanese? They call him Shinigami because that means death god in Japanese. They call him the Grim Reaper in English.
Okay, well,
Reaper Chop.
So or just Lord Death, whatever.
okay, well, Death. I loved Death.
His voice caught me off guard.
I loved the backstory of when
reason.
he had a really scary face.
And his actual voice was like a deep voice. He's like, I am death. He changed it not to freak out everybody.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And he puts on the goofy mask, and I just love him. He's got the big hands, and I'm like, Death, you're the best guy. You're the nicest iteration of Death.
And
ever.
he looks goofy and he acts goofy just to get along with the kids.
So he doesn't scare them.
And later, when he actually fights for real, that was awesome. Like when he does like the they call it Reaper Chop in English, but like Shinigami Chop. Oh my gosh, when he did it for real and in the fight against, I think it was the Kishin.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Admittedly, I mean, kind of with that, the Kishin beat him a lot easier than I thought he would, but I guess
Yeah.
that'd be faster for the actual show. But still, his fight, I was hoping to see him fight, and the fact he did made it.
Because
because
before he was like Reaper Chop, like when he was joking.
Yeah.
But then when he fought for real, he was like
you're like,
Reaper Chop.
I didn't know it was actually one of his moves. And the fact it was, I was like,
Yeah. Well, that, like you said, that's the thing I love. Like you got this sharp contrast with him, like being the goofy self that he normally is, where he like doesn't take like anything seriously and always talks in the goofy voice. And then when he fights the Kishin, like he gets to this point, I think, where like the Kishin like injures him, and he gets like that deep gruff voice. It's like, "I'll tear your skin apart and wrap you up in it," or something.
I know,
like that.
like he
Yeah.
was.
What?
Like he was scaring everybody. Like during the final fight when he's wielding the Death Scythe, and the Death Scythe's like, I know he's the Lord of Death, but damn.
Yeah.
the thing is, I like though most shows, obviously Shinigami or things like that are evil. While he is, in this case, I mean, a good guy. I mean,
he's a cool
part of-
guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty much like the guardian of the earth.
Yeah, it's a sign of death you never really expect to see in anything. That's why I really like the way they took it.
Right. Well, the whole idea of the academy was like to defend against the witches, and the misuse of souls, like so Shinigami is the one who controls death and souls and everything like that.
It was definitely a different take on death and how it's looked upon in culture.
Which is awesome. They live with
yeah.
death in the cities. I mean,
Yeah.
whoops.
Yeah, it's,
Well,
it's
yeah.
cool.
One thing we should definitely talk about at some point is the aesthetic for the show, just like with the character designs, like the clothing they wear, and like the moon and the way the towns are designed and everything, because it has a very like unique look
Yes.
to it.
I loved the moon and the sun.
They're
Yes.
3D and the sun's always laughing.
Yeah.
Sometimes laughing, and the
moon
moon
occasionally
has, like,
has
blood.
blood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like did the moon like eat the sun? I mean, I don't know. Like,
I'm assuming.
what's going on
Just
there?
a bit.
But
Its tongue or something?
Because Soul Eater is based on a manga that continued on after the show got done. I've actually read the
What?
whole thing.
actually, that makes sense because like at the end, I kind of felt like. They left a lot of plot hooks up in the air, and I'm like,
they
is
find
they
Maka's
like
mom?
going on?
Actually, no, they never find Maka's.
Why?
Maka's mom never is introduced, which is a little disappointing.
We need to talk about the ending later because
We will.
my
Yeah,
God.
we'll talk about the ending because the ending's got problems.
Admittedly, when Chris warned me the ending, he's like, you'll have opinions. And I was like, I do.
have
After I
opinions.
saw it.
You'll
But-
have opinions.
Damn it, there was something I was gonna say, and now
we
I've
were-
forgotten what
the
it was.
style of the city or the moon
Yeah,
or something.
something like that. I don't know. It'll come back to me later. But I don't know. I just really love that, and like the clothing they wear. Like occasionally, they've got like their DWMA clothing, and then they'll just wear like really casual clothes, like when they're playing basketball and stuff.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
like
kind of
that.
refreshing to see.
I like that they changed their outfit and they like put the effort to like have them have different character designs other
Yeah.
than what they always look like.
that's one of my favorite things in anime is when every arc they change the
They actually
clothing
care
and the
enough to do
style.
something different.
Because realistically, you're not going to wear the same things every day. So if your character is seen wearing the same clothes every single day, every single arc, every single episode, you're gonna wonder,
Do they wash
do,
it?
do they wash it, and also do they ever get bored of that style?
You think they
Never.
would? Yeah, see, that's one thing. Yeah, like, it's actually, and the fact they showed them playing basketball, I thought it was just cool. It's something I didn't expect, and like, they're just playing sports, having a great time, being kids.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure like that's around the time like the whole arachnophobia thing is going on. I think someone says like, why are they playing basketball at a time like this? You know, and I think it's actually Maka's dad who's like, you know, this is the time when they need to play this sort of stuff the most. You know, have the relaxing, fun times where they can be kids. You know, away from this brewing war and stuff. You know, which I really liked, sort of as a theme.
I just realized another character we really should talk about is Corona.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Best
wait,
scene.
Corona or no, it's not Corona.
No,
it's
it's Corona.
okay, Corona. Right. Sorry, I messed up the name.
Best scene in the entire anime. When they're like, "Oh, Corona, what'd you write?" And he just shows it to them. They're all like really depressed, like sitting next to it. Every time they read it, all of them.
Well, I loved it because it was like one at a time. Like each of them started like going there, and then eventually he's just like standing there staring, and then gets down in a little corner too.
I absolutely love Ragnarok.
Well, you made the point. He's the voice of Usopp in English,
Yeah, he's
which I had to realize.
yep, same voice actor. I love. I think it's hilarious.
When Ragnarok was powerful, it was epic.
well, and
So was.
I'm not going to do it in the mic, but I love when he did that.
The shriek?
The shriek. That was so cool.
Yeah.
And then he got really weak, but he's cute.
Yeah. When he's in his little mini form, he just wants to eat a bunch of stuff.
He just popped
He's
out. He
just
couldn't
hungry.
hit Corona anymore. He just go on his head like.
Yeah. Well, the first time we see him is like the first time the show really gets dark because that's like where Soul gets like that huge scar across his body protecting Maka from, you know, Krona's attack.
only open from the outside.
Yeah, and the only reason that, you know, they live is because Stein shows up and, you know, kicks Krona's
Wrecks
ass,
it.
basically.
Okay, hands down, I'll say it right now, Stein's my favorite character like any anime I've ever seen. I love Stein.
Really, more so than any anime ever.
Any?
Until I saw
Gurren
Gurren
Lagann.
Lagann, he was, yes. I love
Yeah.
Stein.
I was going to say.
He is really cool. What got me was when he was first introduced, and
As a villain, kind of.
and he was a pseudo villain, and he just beat everyone up,
And
and,
just
he
kids.
did it in a really cool way, and he did it.
He used a chair.
Believe
Yeah,
me,
he
if I, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that.
I was gonna say, correct me if
He
I'm
was in
wrong.
his rolling chair.
He didn't like move from his chair at all.
And he beat all of them because he's the best Meister ever because he can use any weapon. I thought that was so cool. That he used like, a giant screw in his head to change frequencies to use any soul.
Well,
I thought, was it Black Star? I thought Black Star died in what was it, episode 4 or 5?
When he was
whichever.
fighting-
yeah.
He was fighting Stein, and Stein uses the electricity on
That's
his
right.
head. And when you see Black Star, and when he hits the ground, blood splatters on the ground, and I was dumbfounded because I knew Soul Eater was going to be kind of dark because just of the style and what I'd heard about it. But when you see Black Star hit the ground and blood splatter, I immediately thought, okay, well, there's one main character dead already.
That was quick.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Doesn't he just get up later? Like he's fine?
He gets up later, and I'm sure Stein explained it
Like-
why he didn't die. But
Yeah.
it was the way they did it was really cool.
yeah.
yeah, well, I think it's just sort of a thing where Stein didn't do it enough to kill him, and let's face the facts, Black Star loses like 20 gallons of blood throughout the show and doesn't die.
Yeah.
I still like it when, you know, when he has
Almost.
his sword. And I'm sorry, Mark.
No, it's okay.
I was just saying, you know, when he has his sword and it like drains his energy in the beginning, and he's like, "All right, Black Star, train. Just use this like liquid to like train yourself." And he just keeps shoving his entire fist in, and he's like, like every time.
The comment, I was going to make an offhanded comment about how Zoro in One Piece loses that much blood and more, and is still
Dude.
alive and walking.
After he took that stuff for Luffy, when you show me that,
Yeah.
that pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much the epitome of Zoro right there. But no, I agree with you. I love Stein. I love like this whole like backstory between him and Maka's dad and how like he used to dissect Maka's dad.
I know. I love that.
Yeah.
When they were Meister and Weapon. And he's like traumatized for life because of it pretty much. But then
a little intrusive.
and you get that, but at the same time, like you can tell like at heart, like they're best bros, you know? Like
Above all the dissection stuff.
yeah, because like I was actually rewatching the show. I just finished like the last couple episodes today, and in the credits sequence at the very end of the show, there's this scene of like the two of them like lighting their cigarettes together, like they touch them together to light the cigarettes. It's like, oh yeah,
Real bros.
real bros for life.
You do kind of see that though when Stein wields him again, like what was it?
Fighting
Like,
Corona.
Fighting Medusa.
Yeah, fighting Medusa
Man.
at the bottom of the academy, because they are really still friends, despite the fact that, you know, Spirit kept waking up and he was like, "Why are my organs rearranged?"
Yeah.
No,
It just how well they work together.
Yeah, and then you get the whole thing with later on the show where Stein starts going crazy, basically because of that
Medusa?
snake that Medusa put in Marie, you know, who he's hanging out with all the time. Like that was definitely an interesting way to turn. Because one thing I loved about the show is whenever it animated like the Kishin's madness or anything like really dark like that, when it went in the characters' minds, like the animation always got like really crazy and like weird, and that was always kind of cool. Like I love that shot of the Kishin's like 3 eyes, like, you know, moving back and forth in the frame.
By far my favorite, just kind of part / scene in the series was when Maka goes insane.
Yes.
And she does that thing where she's fighting Krona all crazy like, and
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and she begins doing that giggle,
Yeah.
evil laugh,
And her head like keeps lolling around while she's just breaking him.
and that unfeeling like happy smile.
Isn't Soul trying to break her out of it too at the same time? Because remember at one point he's being sucked into darkness and she has to help him because like he's being corrupted by that demon thing.
Yeah.
The black blood.
The
black blood. That's
the
right.
black blood was trying to bring him down so he couldn't help
Maka.
Maka out of the insanity.
That's right. Yeah, they're both like losing it right then.
Yeah. Well, the reason Maka did that was because she needed to become insane so she could resonate with Krona's soul, which is one of my favorite episodes, not only because of the madness thing going
did
on
the cute
there,
little,
but
circle
then,
thing.
yeah, when you get Krona inside his little world where he's still a little kid in the desert, and then Maka shows up and just kicks like the lion that he drew around himself and like basically makes him like stop being evil.
I just remembered that scene made me so sad when he has to kill the
Little dog or whatever it was.
Was it a dog? I thought it was a baby dragon.
No, it was a dragon. It was a
Oh,
little
yeah,
dragon.
yeah.
She's like, kill the dragon. He's like, no.
And then he actually does it, and oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, no, Krona's backstory and like that scene in the desert, like that's one of my favorite episodes of the show, just because it's so like
Medusa's
tragic.
a butt.
Oh yeah, I love Medusa as a villain, just because she's so like pure evil.
Medusa.
Actually, she was my favorite villain in the series because she always felt like the most consistently competent and evil villain
I like the
in the
werewolf.
series.
He was.
I
I,
like
mean,
the
obviously he
werewolf.
wasn't a competent villain, but I
No.
loved him because he was literally invincible.
He was the funny one.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, no, Medusa I would say she wasn't the strongest because obviously the Kishin is like the most powerful, but she had power and brains. You
She
know?
took over a kid, took her from a family, then left.
Right, so she had power and brains. The Kishin just had power, and then Arachne, like we know she did have power, but she never really got the chance to use it in the show. So she
never
was
really
more
fought.
of a she was more of a brain.
But she had the
was more of
mosquito
a-
guy. Okay, their fight with the mosquito
yes,
was sweet. That when they all work together to just break him.
When they first used the genie hunter.
Yes, when they
Yes.
used Genie Hunter and she actually got it for the first time.
yeah,
Man, that was
and they do
great.
the soul resonance with Soul's piano playing. That's
when they all work
that's a
together.
great episode.
Yeah. I remember they're training forever because it was so hard. I like that though. When they showed the training, things never obviously worked out right away. It shouldn't, but they actually showed the progression as fast as they could in a series.
Yeah.
It's that.
Well, I like that episode a lot because it's like the whole plot of the episode is basically that like Death and Mach are able to connect easily, but then when they try to connect to Black Star, it always messes up because Black Star's like doing his Black Star thing, you know. And Maka gets really pissed about it and goes to talk to Stein about it, and they have a big fight. And
like, "Suck it
and
up."
it eventually turns out like it's Maka's the one who's like not accepting like Black Star, like not reaching up to Black Star's level because Black Star's so strong or whatever. And so, you know, eventually they make up and do the soul resonance. And then at the end of the episode, you get that thing where like Maka like apologizes to Black Star's like, you have to punch me. You know, I punched you earlier. You got to punch me as hard as you can, you know. And he doesn't hold back and like punches her in the face. She goes flying off into a dumpster and like has this huge bump on her face.
I forgot about
But
that.
she's
yeah.
like smiling the whole time. It's like the friendship punch.
I mean, that was in like, what was it? Was it the last episode where she's like, I've felt pain much worse than this. And then there was
showed
like,
that.
and then they showed that scene. I'm like, yeah, that would hurt a lot more.
You beat me up in battle. That means something.
Pretty much. Shoot, I was trying to think if there's a character we were going to talk about earlier. No, because you wanted to talk about Death, and we already talked about him.
Death is awesome.
What did you
Sid's
guys?
really cool.
Yeah, that's true. That's another. They do some definitely manipulations with you early on there, because like they say, like Sid's the zombie. You know,
They fight him
former
too,
teacher,
actually.
you have to go fight him, and then they do the same thing like with Stein, like an episode later.
Yeah, it's like he worked. The girl that could be the knife. I can't remember her name, but his like.
Azusan, I think.
I just liked him because he's always like, "That's kind of man I was." Everything he said because he's a zombie. I'm like, it's funny because you're dead.
One of the minor characters I really, really liked was the It was that one kid who had the 2 twins.
Yeah.
Thank you. My favorite character of the side. I've been saying it forever since I've seen it. The Gauntlets. That's
Yeah.
hands down my favorite
Yes.
fighter out of everybody was him.
And you didn't get to see much of him, but I don't know why, but I just really liked it.
people though, because
Yeah.
he had Earth and like something else, like they're 2
Earth and
elements.
Thunder, I think
yeah,
it
he
was.
just
Or
wrecked people. And the
Fire
fight
and
with the
Thunder.
when they're in the snow trying to defend Mock and everybody to go in to take out I
They
think
were-
that was when they were trying to get what's his name.
They were trying to get the brew.
Yeah, DeBrew. But when he fought, you saw him fight a little bit. He just and the girl with the lantern, like there's 3 of them there fighting, and it was sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, we've got like our 3 Meister weapon, I don't know what to call it, group. That's like our main characters. And then later on, like in the second half of the show, they introduce Oz and Killick, who's like the baldy with the spear, and the 2 girls with
Oh,
the
we have the
flame
guy who
thing.
thinks he can do it. Well, who's the guy with the swirly glasses that thinks he can beat everybody?
That's
the guy.
Oz.
And he shocks people. He's like,
Yeah. Well, that's like an episode, I think, where Stein's trying to teach them about soul resonance. And he's like, it's like Ox and Killick and like Black Star and someone else are like all fighting Stein. And he's like, come at me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just once again doing like his chair thing where he's just like dodging all their attacks, like making them hurt each other. And Killick just keeps on like poking Black Star with like his spear and like shocking him.
he's like, if you shot me one more time. Wait, isn't Death the Kid and Black Star fight at one point? Like who they fight
Yeah.
and then there's like a nuke. Yeah, it's like Death the Kid uses his like cannons and like nukes the place. And they're like, and then I think Black Star dodges it.
Yeah, well, that's like the first episode that Death the Kid where he goes to the DWMA. Basically, remember Black Star
That's
is
right.
on one of those pillars
yeah.
on the building and cracks it and it falls and like Death the Kid's like, you ruined the perfect symmetry of this building. We have to fight now.
It's a good way to decide to fight.
Exactly.
Another villain I really liked was the Buzzsaw guy.
Oh my god,
Yes.
when he fought
His fighting style was one of my favorites.
because who did he fight? The guillotine.
Jason.
Jason,
I think it was.
he's always had like the headphones. Like, are you even listening to me? And he's like, what? But no, I love the fact that like he was a chainsaw. I'm like, how's he gonna fight? And the fact he just made chainsaws on his limbs.
And it made that Buzzsaw sound.
He
The
was
effects were
sweet.
so cool.
That and the people who controlled the golems too.
Yeah.
City that made those. Because remember, you were watching that episode like yesterday. I was watching you watch that episode, and it was really good because you saw him fighting. I just like him and you said Jason. That was it.
Yeah.
Jason's
Yeah,
the
their
guillotine
fights were always
guy.
like my favorites because they were just
Well, they fought
sweet.
3 times throughout the show.
And Jason always bested him.
Yeah,
somehow.
I like how they had that like rivalry, I can't say the word together. They were like arch nemesis. Let's go.
There you go.
And they were always fighting, and they were always at each other's throats whenever there was like a big fight between anybody.
Yeah, well, they seem to like the 3 fights because you also got the same 3 fights between Black Star and Mifune throughout the show. So they definitely seem to like doing those repeats, which I also enjoyed a lot.
And let us not forget the great Excalibur.
Yeah, their faces.
Excalibur.
The faces of the fairies is what made it. Because it
love
was
them.
like,
And then when someone's met
yeah, the giant
Excalibur
reed.
because they all do the same face. When
Yeah.
when Death the Kid and Black Star, someone mentions Excalibur and they just go,
see what I like though is the fact that they had 3 separate people, 2 main characters, and the one just random kid you never saw before, but he actually used them and beat them all in a fight. Like it shows Excalibur's powerful, but then he like what? Didn't he break one of Excalibur's rules or something?
No, he followed all the rules.
Oh, yeah,
like
the
it was
cough.
fine with it. And then he like sneezed. And he's like, his sneezes were way too annoying, so I put him back.
I like that. Can fill the 1,000 provisions a day, including the 5-hour story session.
I began tea or something like tea time.
It was a cold Monday morning, unless it was a Tuesday or maybe a Wednesday.
Well, because the first episode, he appears and you don't know what's going on with him, and Stein is like talking about it to someone else, like cutting back and forth between Black Star and Kid looking for Excalibur. He's like, oh no, Excalibur is without a doubt the most powerful weapon in the world, but there's one reason why no Meister has ever contracted with him or whatever, and then you just see why that is in that episode.
Just
He
the
can put
wreath
up
he
with
made
him.
for them afterwards is what made it. In each
Yes.
class, that and at the end when he's with everybody at the last like scene, he's going fools, but everyone just ignores him. Like he's yelling at everybody, and they're like, nope.
yeah, he shows up at the end and he just keeps yelling at them. And yeah, I like that because Death's just like, oh, Excalibur, when did you get here?
Yeah. Well, Excalibur's pretty much there just to observe, but he does actually give some helpful advice.
Yes.
Shows that he is knowledgeable when he wants to be, and not just
He's been around
annoying.
forever, so
Yeah.
he just knows all these people.
Though he looked a lot different than I expected. I didn't expect a little white thing. I don't even know what to call him. He's just like a little dapper man thing.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I think that's the whole point.
Yeah, but he's weird. This song.
Oh yes. Well, and I think of the 3 Excalibur episodes, I think my favorite one might have to be the second one where Ox, the bald kid, goes, just because it's like Excalibur talking about his life and these random flashes to just ridiculous event after ridiculous event.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, Chris warned me though. He was like, "Okay, we can skip these," and I won't say anything, man. We can skip these. I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "I don't want to tell you." And I was like, "I have to watch them." When I did, he's like, "I told you should have skipped them."
Is he one of the people that didn't like Excalibur?
He hates Excalibur with a
I
passion.
love it. I think it's
Oh, I
hilarious.
No,
love
I
him.
liked it. Yeah, it was funny, especially watching him being mad next to me. It was really funny.
Because I was like, I could probably skip these. After the first one, I'm like, I could probably skip the Excalibur episodes because they're not thought relevant. But I love the Excalibur episodes, so I'm going to watch them.
Yeah. Well, and the best one is, I think, you know how the previews for the next episode, at the end,
yeah.
there's usually some funny dialogue that goes on there. The one before the last Excalibur episode is Maka singing the Excalibur
That's right,
song.
yeah.
And it's they do it in English and Japanese. So in the Japanese, she's singing in the English, the whole, from United K, that whole thing. It's like, it is the best.
It is Excalibur.
Obviously better in English, just because English is
Well, of course.
amazing. Oh man. So yeah, we got Excalibur there. He's a thing, but his episodes are some of the ones like you can rewatch the most. Like I said, I have the whole show on Blu-ray, and I love going back to his episodes.
You did write Excalibur is literally the best ever on your bullet points. So, I mean,
pretty
that is a thing.
Pretty much. Like everyone looks for. Well, I have heard that some people find him like annoying and just skip those episodes, like Chris. But personally, I love whenever Excalibur shows up.
Calling you out, Chris.
Yeah, come on, y'all, Chris. Damn you.
Aside from the ending, is there any other point in the show that you really wanted to specifically talk about?
I would definitely say my personally the part of the show that I like the most is like right around the middle there, where we're doing the whole death and everyone else gets locked inside that box inside the DWMA and can't escape,
Yeah.
except they send the main characters basically into the basement, and it's like, okay, we gotta race and beat the werewolf and the frog witch before they resurrect the Kishin, and the Medusa's there and they're fighting with Stein. Like that whole series of events leading up to the Kishin getting resurrected and him fighting death, like that was my favorite part of the show personally.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
They're hurting
that was my
themselves.
favorite too. Like, I love that sequence.
Yeah, wasn't it where they were literally going insane so they weren't even knowing what's going on around them kind of thing? Like they're
Yeah.
fighting the wrong thing.
Well, because
Yeah.
Black Star thinks he cut the syringe with the black blood before it hit the Kishin's little sack there, and then it turns out that was just the madness hitting him, and it actually got in there. I don't know. I just love that whole series of episodes because that's also where we get Krona versus Maka, which I already said was definitely maybe my single favorite episode because I love it when they do that whole thing in the desert. Because you get that whole bit where for a good 5 minutes or so, Krona is just talking with his shadow and keeps on passing, whenever the shadow asks him a personal question, is pass, pass, pass. He's making the little marks in the sand. And he's like, that's 47 passes. Are you ever gonna do anything? It's repetitive, but it's so effective as it builds up. You're just feeling so sad for Krona. And then little kid Maka just shows up and erases his little line, and it's oh, it's so sweet.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. I think I remember what I was going to say earlier. Fun fact, in the anime, Krona is described as a he throughout the whole show. In the manga, it's never specified whether it's a boy or a girl.
For the longest time, and I still believe, I've been saying he because you guys have been saying it, I think Krona's a girl. But, I mean...
I sort of...
Because it's purposely left to be ambiguous. And when I saw Krona, I looked at her and I was like, oh... You look like a girl, and the voice in Japanese and kind of English, it's very, it's not specifically masculine and it's not specifically feminine. So really, the way I think of it is either it's gender neutral or you can look at it as however you want.
Yeah, it's impressive they keep it so gender neutral though. Usually you can get a hint, but yeah, you don't.
Yeah, well, like I said, in the anime, they say he's a he, and that's personally the one I go with more, but it's up to debate, really. Mm-hmm. And I also really love during that whole sequence of events, when the Kishin does start reviving, the animation where he is crawling out of his sack and the skin is he's still forming his features basically. He looks at the frog witch who had resurrected me, rubs his eyes and looks at her and starts just this high pitched scream and wraps the skin around himself to make himself look like the Kishin. The animation there was really good and it was really creepy. And I loved that episode a lot. What did you guys think of that?
It was epic because I thought that Blacksword actually did it when I found out he'd missed that. When I
Same.
saw it crawling out and putting its skin on, I'm like, how's he gonna get his skin around him? And then I saw how he did it, and I was like, oh,
It was really creepy.
yeah, they did
It
a
was
really
really
good
well
job.
done. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And personally, I really like creepy villains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he was awesome. The fact that like he retained his sanity, obviously afterwards, he still obviously talked to everybody and was creepy as hell. And they did a really good job once he was actually out and showed his power.
Right. Yeah, and then you got that whole fight between him and Death, which was, another standout moment because we had wondered for a long time, like, how strong was Death, because he assumed he was this badass, but you learn that because he's tied his soul to Death City to keep the Kishin captured, he can never leave. You get that that awesome shot of like his soul just basically surrounding the whole city, which is what the Kishin basically abuses in order to escape. Like he sends out like his most powerful attack and it bounces off like that invisible wall that's protecting the city pretty much. So I love that whole series of events. And then, I don't know, I like the second half of the show a lot too, but it does feel like it repeats itself a little.
It feels a bit rushed to me.
You think? Because the second half of the show, I think, is longer than the first half.
It's longer, but I don't know. When I say rushed, I mean I didn't quite like the plot points as much. The plot in the first half was very concise. It was, this is what's happening. It's leading up to this. Whereas the second half, yes, it was longer, but I felt like there was build up. Here's the end.
I actually disagree with you there because the first half of the show has no we know like Medusa's evil, the Kishin is evil, but we haven't really seen the Kishin at that point, and it's only like in that episode in the DWMA where we learn, oh, this is Medusa's plan to, revive the Kishin and trap everyone in this room or whatever. Whereas with the second half of the show, we have this overarching villain of arachnophobia, like basically this group that's as large and as dangerous as the DWMA. And they're basically the villain throughout the whole second half, and they're constantly fighting against them, like that big battle for the brew or those little like one-off episodes, like when Death the Kid goes after that one crazy train, to get one of the magic tools and all that sort of stuff. So I actually felt like the second half was more focused in as far as that it had like a discernible villain and what they were eventually you knew they were going to go fight arachnophobia, whereas in the first half of the show they introduced this whole idea of you have to get the 99 souls and the one witch's soul to become a death scythe, but that's never really a central part of the show after
dropped.
the first episode.
Yeah, they really
Don't they
dropped
lose
that.
all their souls at one point? Like, didn't Marc
Yeah.
have like 99 souls and then lost it?
And then they
Yeah,
just
that
dropped
was the
that,
first
whole,
episode.
that whole thing.
99
But-
souls and the witch ain't one.
But what I was more referring
actually a
to,
shirt.
what I was more referring to is I personally liked the way they paced the first one better because of, yes, it was very there wasn't as much focus, but there was that buildup of Krona's like a bad dude. What's going on with that? We don't really know why. And then there's Medusa, and we know something's going on with her, but they build that up because at first you don't know she's a villain, but it's pretty obvious because she's like the nurse, and then they show you stuff like that. That buildup of not knowing what the plot was, but then all of a sudden they get like to a, not all of a sudden, but like halfway through that season, they get to the point where it's revealed what's going on. Personally, I liked that better than the second season where, yes, it was an obvious villain, but I guess it was less mysterious to me because you knew who you were fighting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's definitely something to that. Like, you knew Medusa was doing something bad, but you didn't know exactly what was going on. So there's a certain element of mystery that the first half of the show had. Bringing up Medusa made me think one of my favorite parts in the first half of the show is where she goes to like the witches meeting and the frog witch and the Mizune, the little mouse witch, confront her about it afterwards. She sticks her hands in like their mouth at the one point and you think nothing of it. And then they confront her later and it turns out she put all these snakes inside their bodies and she kills the one Mizune, with the snakes that she had put in there, and like uses that as like the bargaining chip for why the frog witch helps
to
her
help her
out.
with everything.
Yeah, it's like, wow, she's evil and smart though, so she's actually a credible villain, kind of like you said, Andrew, which I really liked. One interesting about the show, Matt Lunn isn't here to talk about it. He had to go do a Bassif thing, but he apparently is really frustrated in the second half of the show where they do the whole thing with the magic tools, and like the DWMA is getting all these magic tools, and Death is being like nonchalant, like not talking about why, and Death the Kid gets really like suspicious
it's a huge
of
conspiracy.
it. Right, and all this stuff with like his name and Avon, like how their names are together in the train, when he finds that one magic tool, and Death the Kid is like doing this whole investigation, like talking about how the DWMA is like, could be evil and doing these bad things. And then it turns out basically that all of that was a red herring, and he's really just using the magic tools to turn Death City into the giant robot so he can go and fight the Kishin.
It's a little anticlimactic. I was hoping more would come out of that. Like, if Death actually did some bad things, not just like, oh, I'm trying to save everybody. It'd be kind of cool to have that little dynamic in the past, but yeah, I guess.
That's actually probably part of the reason why I don't like the second season as much, because there wasn't really anything that disappointed me in the first season, but then in the second season, there was just a whole bunch of little things that disappointed me. They didn't bring back the 99 Souls thing. That was a big like anticlimactic end to the whole conspiracy theory. And then the ending, which I want to talk about soon because I want to bash it so much. Right. It
the
bothers
power
me
of friendship
so much.
and power.
But what I'm saying is I agree with you on it was just so anticlimactic.
God, the power of courage.
I agree. Because Death the Kid was like, I don't want to say he wasn't, like relevant. He didn't feel like he was doing a lot the back half of the show, except this conspiracy thing. That was like his only like plot hook.
He helped him out like with the fight against the mosquito guy and Brew, in that tornado thing.
He did
Brew
like
up
the big fights, but like Kenny.
But
Anyway,
but why focus so much on these conspiracy theory episodes and then have it be nothing?
yeah, like that was like really his like only thing like that whole half. Like Maka had her insecurities, and Black Star was like, I'm still the greatest person ever. But Death the Kid was like, they kind of like lost the symmetry thing a little bit to give him this conspiracy thing to like show how he's like smart and like this might not be a bad thing, and it just turns out to be nothing.
I don't love it, but I do think it works because like it's basically just sort of a thing where he's like, he asks Death about it, like, when he's got the magic tool Avon, like that key thing. He's like, I want you to tell me what you're going to do with these magic tools. And he's like, okay.
Like,
it was basically Death the Kid just assumed that like his dad was doing something really evil and being like, touchy about it. And he just never asked him like face to face up front about it. If he had, Death might have told him the truth. So that's one thing going in its favor. And it leads to a funny moment where he just like freaks out, like, "Wait, what? You mean it was just this conspiracy, blah blah blah?"
Yeah,
And they said they had a reason for doing it because they wanted to keep it a secret that what the magic tools did basically was like to help grant a wish, and what Death wanted to do with it. Because had he told everyone in the DWMA about it, then the Arachne definitely would have learned about it and counteracted that plan.
Every
so they had
single
to keep
spider.
They had to keep it a secret.
That is true. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I like that. And I will also say, like, the second half does have some really good episodes. Like, it's got obviously the third fight with Mifune, when they're at Baba Yaga Castle, but also the second one where I think that's Black Star goes and destroys that morality manipulator machine thing. And Mifune is there, and like they fight off, and Mifune kicks his ass pretty much because it's like, I was going easy on you the first time. And after that, Black Star sort of like goes in this bit of a depression where he's like, feels like he's not strong enough because he's lost all these fights, and he fights Death the Kid again, And I really actually liked that episode because like afterwards he's beaten, and like everyone's worried that he's gonna like spiral into this depression. And they like visit him in his hospital room. He's just sitting there doing like 10,000 push-ups pretty much. And it's like, oh, he's just back to his Black Starry self.
He's just like, I'm going to push myself harder and surpass beyond God.
Pretty much.
Thank you, Naruto.
It's sort of like Gurren Lagann.
Yes, like
a little bit like Gurren Lagann.
You gotta give him points for that.
Yeah.
But the ending.
Yeah, well, and because like I said, I was rewatching the end of the show recently, and I really like the build-up, like with all the stuff that's going on.
I mean, the build-up's the best part, but then just...
Yeah.
And they don't even tell you, they even warn you, like, by the way, and then that thing happens.
Well,
we say that, is that safe now?
Well, yeah, you can talk about it.
This becomes a weapon and nobody tells you, there's literally no warning, nothing at all. They don't even mention it. It's just, oops. Convenient for her to live and not die.
Yeah, the weapon thing...
That really bothered
honestly,
me.
the weapon thing kind of bothers me more than the courage thing, because I understand the courage thing. The weapon thing...
I accepted that more than the weapon thing, because that was literally just convenient for her not to die. That was it. because they never mentioned it once. They even hint in the series.
Well,
that she
that's
got
not actually true because I noticed something when in the that you mentioned the episode where they fight against the mosquito guy.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's right.
And they're doing the soul resonance thing, and they're kicking his ass, and it's like Maka has this little like dialogue with Soul, like inner monologue before she does the genie hunter for the first time, and she says something about Soul's feelings going to her and like their feelings coming across each other, his trust and confidence, the source of their courage, like that. She makes a good point, like says source of their courage, and that's where she does the little spinny genie hunter.
How does that show the weapon
But-
thing at all?
I'm not talking about the weapon thing.
I was talking about the weapon thing. They don't tell you about that at all.
That's true, they don't. I was
Yeah.
talking more about the courage.
Okay,
thing.
no, that,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you were trying to make a point. I'm like, that doesn't prove the weapon thing at all.
I'm sorry, Kenny.
But
Yeah, so-
I didn't really like any of those points because just her turning into a weapon obviously made no sense, like at all
It was just
whatsoever.
convenient, that was
It was in my opinion like Deus Ex Machina.
No, that-
But
yeah.
then and then the courage thing, like I'm all about
Spirit power.
the point of an anime being friendship and courage and fighting spirit and you can do anything. Like I'm totally cool with that. But yes, maybe it was mentioned earlier in the show, but the show's theme was not like friendship or like yes it was because there was a whole like I don't
When it
know.
came to defeating enemies, they
I
literally
guess-
just clobbered them.
Yeah,
with
like-
cool
like-
abilities.
I don't know why it's so hard for me to explain, but the whole show was not about friendship. Yes, they were all friends, and there was the whole soul resonance thing. But they did soul resonance, and then they used their powers to beat people. They never directly used like friendship or courage to beat someone. But then the final battle against the final boss, literally the thing that beats him is a punch of courage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
That's the thing.
If sorry, Kenny.
No,
but
go ahead.
If she had gotten a superpower,
That's what I was thinking.
because of courage, and and by superpower, I'm not talking like
A better genie hunter kind of thing. That's like more.
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
I was thinking.
if
That's what I thought she would do.
If she got,
Well, she got the Kishin hunter.
if she,
yeah, the
if
Quiche
she,
hunter times 10 kind of thing.
if she got a better fighting style because of courage, and that helped her beat him, that would have been fine with me. But it's like, oh, I can turn into a weapon now, and then punch of courage, we win.
Yeah, because
Now-
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, well, I was just thinking about that because actually, I think they don't explicitly say it, but there is definitely a lot building that up. Because, like for example, with the whole thing with Krona, whereas like we said earlier, Maka isn't the strongest fighter in the show, but like Krona is saying in that like last episode, like it's not Krona's magic anti-magic wave like that makes her special. It's something more. And they keep on going on about that. And like in the episode where she soul resonated with Krona, it was basically that whereas Krona was like debilitated by his fear and like how he was always saying I don't understand blank, I don't understand blank, I don't know how to deal with this situation. Krona or Maka is like comes in there and is not afraid to soul resonate with him, not her. And basically she goes the route of making friends with Krona and like getting to him that way rather than trying to fight him.
Yeah.
And basically like uses her courage and her confidence, to go in there and like erase that line, which was obviously something that Krona himself never could do.
That's not really. That's not a weapon though. Like actually defeating something like that. That's just using her actual inner courage and
right,
spirit to
right.
do it.
But I'm saying that had been shown as a thing that could defeat fear.
Yes,
Basically.
yes. But
and the Kishin itself is basically the embodiment of fear and madness.
yeah, but the thing is, they show that the Kishin's OP. He could beat everybody. So I was wondering, obviously, how they can defeat him because he literally thrashed them left and right, which was awesome because they built up a character, and rarely do you see a villain that's actually like built up to the power he's supposed to and keep it going that long.
See,
So I was wondering how they take him, but
I had the opposite effect. The Kishin had the opposite effect on me. Because like they had Medusa over here and she's like, got this tragic backstory of Corona and where she, like abused him for her own personal gains. And then like she was a good villain. Like she hit all the right notes. The Kishin, because for so much of the second half where he just wasn't even there or like even really talked about, like he was basically replaced with the arachnophobia thing. It's like, well, aren't we still okay? We're not doing that anymore. All right, fine. And then when they finally get to fighting the Kishin at the end, and he's fighting Death and the Death Scythe, and then he's fighting the three teams of them, I guess, or the pairs or whatever.
The protagonists.
Yeah. He never kills anybody. Like nobody dies
Well, that's 'cause
throughout the entire end.
They're protected by protagonist power.
I know, but like, I feel like that takes
You need
away
some
from him
mortality to
as a
prove it.
villain, that he can like kick all of their asses but he leaves them alive and for like no real reason.
Well,
I mean, he's getting
Like
rage
at least
chugged, though.
like if they killed Death, like Lord Death, and then the ending was like
Kill Death.
Kid Death like assuming his father's position, and
That would
like
be cool.
Patty and I'm sorry, what's her name?
Liz.
Liz, that's it. Having to become like his death sives, and the other two having to like, help him reestablish like control over, Death City, because now it's in ruins and stuff.
Death did get caved in half through the giant
I know,
beam
but
cannon.
Death just like got up like, oh hi guys, I'm fine. Like nothing. I didn't feel like there was any bad real repercussions to anybody from fighting this big bad horrible monster.
I think the main reason why it bothers me so much with that ending of Courage and all that stuff, it's almost as if One Piece, if it were to end, and the treasure of One Piece was friendship,
I'm afraid of that.
I would be so mad because Oda, the
creator.
the creator of One Piece, has written everything so well that if he did a cop out like.
At this point, he knows he can't.
One Piece was the adventure getting here.
I don't think he would do that. I could see it being like something really mundane because, like, we've shown that Luffy's straw hat is like his most precious treasure. So what would be like Gold Rogers?
I would be okay. I would be okay with that. That wouldn't bother me. But it would bother me if it was literally
an empty box.
It would be an empty box that said, "Your friendship that got you here is all the treasure you need."
And you hear the pirates laugh
That's-
wait.
That's why the courage punch bothers me so much. Is because I almost feel like
Though admittedly-
after all this stuff throughout the whole series,
Yeah.
what ultimately ends the show and defeats the villain is courage.
Okay, here's a point for both Andrew and Mark that
Okay.
I've thought up of. With the Kishin, I think it actually makes sense in the second half of the show that he sort of disappears because it is explicitly stated multiple times that he is like afraid of everything. Like even people who are like weaker than him and stuff. So, and it's been shown he's not exactly, a manipulator. He's like this brute, powerful guy, but he's not exactly the smartest guy around there who's going to be manipulating people like Medusa was. So I think it makes sense that he runs off to some isolated corner of the world and rejuvenates his health after his battle with the Grim Reaper. And I think it was really cool when Arachne showed up and was basically like getting her ass kicked by him and was like, I'll protect you, doing this whole like manipulating him with like a love thing, to get him to come to her Arachnophobia so she could use that evil machine and all that. So I think that fits into Kishin's character because he's like, the whole point is that he's afraid of like everything.
Yeah, dude, he
And
ate his
that's-
weapon. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why he's doing all this stuff, like gaining powers, so he's trying to stop himself from being afraid, basically. But even as you gain more power, you're still afraid of everything. And now I'm trying to remember what I was going to say to Mark's point, and I've lost my train of thought. Basically, with the whole like courage thing, at least for me, like because like I said, I just rewatched the episode like a few hours ago, and throughout it, like when Maka's doing the whole like courage, bravery talk, the Kishin has like this really freaked out look on his face, and he's basically saying exactly what the audience is thinking, like, you're super weak, you can't possibly defeat me, how could a punch possibly beat, someone like me?
And as the words emblazoned on the screen.
Yeah, and as this like fear, don't understand is like playing up on the screen. So he's basically like saying all these things of like, why this doesn't make any logical sense, but yet he still is terrified basically of her confidence, and just seeing how she's not afraid even though all these things have been put down on you. There's this there's a fantasy book series I really love called The Wheel of Time, and I won't spoil anything here. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but basically the final conclusion they reach, like in the 13th book, with like this big last battle, like humanity is losing really bad against all these bad guys, and basically it turns out like that the evil dark one, like the big bad guy, can't ever win as long as humanity like doesn't give up, pretty much, like because the the good guys will fight to the last breath, even when all hope seems lost, whereas the servants of evil will never keep fighting as if there's not something for their own gain, like basically that was sort of the message, that as long as humanity keeps fighting, doesn't give up, doesn't despair,
And-
then they can overcome.
Humanity does have spiral energy, so we have that going for us. So I mean,
Yes, we do.
Exactly. So it seems like it's sort of a similar thing playing in Soul Eater with that whole theme going on.
I guess just because I do like the series so much, I wish they did it a little bit better. But
Well, and here's my question though, because how do you end it without resorting to some sort of Deus Ex Machina? Because I do think they sort of had written themselves into a corner where, well, for those who don't know, the manga is about like halfway done. Like the manga starts deviating from the anime. Like there's some things about the Arachnophobia arc that are the same as the manga, and other things that are different. And the manga was nowhere near finishing when Soul Eater was getting done with the anime run, so they came up with their own ending for it. So they couldn't really follow the manga's path. So how would you have preferred them to end it?
the way I would have ended it was, the three of them, the protagonists, try and fight the Kishin. Kishin beats them. That happens in every like shonen anime where the boss beats the protagonist and then the protagonists get back up and defeat the boss. Except the way I see it happening is the way they defeat the Kishin is they do another like soul resonance. Except it's so powerful that like maybe they can all combine their attacks into like a single attack, and that wipes out the Kishin. And the reason why they could do that like ultimate higher state of soul resonance is because they've worked so well together, and like they maybe found like a higher state of being or something like that. I feel like that would have added a whole nother thing. Like it would have fit with the theme of the show, and it would have brought it up another level, and it would have been a cool fight. But instead it's, oh, we all lose. It's up to Maka. Maka's the only one.
Soul Punch. I mean, it'd be cool if like every student in the school maybe kind of like maybe on the spirit bomb kind of thing, but gave their energy or came up to help. Like, no, we're not going to watch, just here to watch kind of thing.
I guess the thing that whenever I think about like how else they could have ended, there's no way like you can get around like doing something like ridiculous to beat the Kishin, because the whole point is like that. Even the three of them being as strong as they were at that point in the show, they can't match up to the Kishin's power. He's way stronger than they are.
You know what they could have done though?
What?
Sorry, I don't mean to cut
No,
both of you
what?
off. I was thinking, you know how like when she was showing her confidence walking toward him with the whole like fear, I don't understand. What if they all got up and he's like, they're still fighting. What is this? And he started understanding. He's so broken and freaked out. Then they do a super attack and kill him, because that could have done the same thing, still been epic, and still used all that without a punch. Like still using a super move to kill him, but he's so freaked out that they're still fighting kind of thing.
Like I would have been fine had they done something ridiculous, because that happens in every anime, but it needed to be ridiculously awesome or inspiring instead of ridiculously maybe you guys feel differently, but I think sappy and not sappy in a good way. I don't know.
I don't know. It was still pretty epic though, like when during that last bit where he like breaks the ground in front of her and she's like charging up that hill, like and punches him in the face. Like it still is a nice bit of animation.
The animation was nice, and of course, I mean, you're allowed to think it's awesome and stuff. Like I don't really care, but like
I should clarify, I don't think it's awesome. Like I still have problems with it.
Okay.
But like I guess I struggle to think of like how they could have ended it differently that wouldn't have been a Deus Ex Machina, because personally I find it hard to believe that they could have come up with a way for them to beat the Kishin legitimately, given how much, like basically what you said earlier, how OP he had been shown to be.
Again, like if they mixed both of those endings together, maybe like an epic finish with the whole he's afraid of them kind of thing, they could have.
Maybe.
Yeah. I would have preferred that instead of, because never in my mind after the punch I saw that happen and I was just dumbfounded. Like I wasn't excited. I wasn't.
No, yeah.
I was just.
Chris laughed at me, so I mean he warned me.
I said, hey, so is there more? Like,
yeah, I expected the fight to go on, but he went down. And I was like, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. At least for me, like it was sort of a thing where like the first time I watched it, I was like that, where I was kind of like, bleh. But upon like rewatching it and seeing it more, like I can see like what they're trying to do, like philosophically, like it really fits within the whole message of their show. Mm-hmm. And I really like there where like the Kishin is like his face is breaking apart and he's like asking like, what's up with this courage thing? And she's like, it's nothing special, everyone has. And he sort of like smiles and it's like, oh, so it's just like madness, Sort of like, the way I see it is like the Kishin is like the embodiment of the fear and the madness, and Maka is sort of like the embodiment of the courage and, hope and all that sort of stuff. And just because of the way the Kishin is as a villain, where he's like super terrified of everything, the idea of someone who's as weak as Maka is in comparison to him charging up at him and punching him in the face, you know, and standing up against him, even despite everything that had happened, the hopelessness of it all was just so like freaking inconceivable to him that, you know, it destroys him basically. Yeah, I admit, just hearing myself say that out loud, yeah, it's cheesy and sappy as hell. Yeah. But you know, it's not a great ending, you know, but I don't think it ruins the show either. You know, I still enjoy the show a lot.
I love the series. I recommend people watch it, but it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I can read that. Read the manga if you want to keep going then.
Yeah, I don't. I've read the whole manga. There are things about the manga that I like more than the anime, but then the anime does certain things. Like I like the way the anime handles Krona better than I think I do in the manga, and certain things like that. Like I love how, you know, Krona goes through this whole thing where he you know, Medusa seduces him basically to be evil again. You know, put that thing in the coffee mug, you know, and he's evil for a while and he's like really conflicted about it, and then he eventually like goes to that desert place and he's just like, I'm just gonna sit here and die basically, and then Maka shows up looking for him and like brings him back to the DWMA, and he decides like, no, I'm gonna, you know, go out and fight Medusa, you know, and right my wrongs basically. You know, I guess I just got so like I was getting invested in his character because you so wanted him to be good that when he did the wrong thing, we're just like, God damn it, you know? Why can't you just do the right thing? You know, I so want you to do the right thing, but you're not doing it. So, I don't know. Any final thoughts about any like particular arc about the show, or should we just go to our sort of final thoughts about the show as a whole?
I think final thoughts are good.
Yeah.
I definitely like the show. I recommend it. Just don't be surprised when the ending comes up and you're not quite satisfied.
Kenny?
It was one of my favorite animes. I love it. It had really good build up. Both seasons I enjoyed different things about it, villains, heroes, stuff like that, and you actually get to see the progression. And the best thing is the show's got a lot of soul. So I mean, it's good. It's good, but it's great. Just the ending will make you sad. Not in a good way.
Not in a good way. You know. All right. I liked it. Like I said before, better Naruto's in this show.
Naruto star.
Better.
The characters are hilarious.
Yeah, the characters are hilarious. It's actually really funny, but But when it gets serious, you like enjoy it. And the fight scenes are very well done, and there's some good like character arcs in it. Like Corona has an interesting character arc, and you know Maka has a mostly interesting character arc. Sometimes I feel like she was just like going through the same thing again. Like, I don't know.
Like what?
Well, like, you know, early on she's like, I'm insecure and I can't trust Soul, and then later on she's like, I'm insecure and I can't trust Black Star, and I'm like, can't we go through this already? But whatever. But I like her as a character, and I like all the main characters, and I think they had a really good dynamic together, and I think that's important for this.
Yeah. Well, one thing I didn't mention, but I really like is like the fact that, you know, it's rare to see like especially like a shonen action show, sort of like Soul Eater is, that has such a nice balance of male and female characters like as leads. You know, like usually it's predominantly male cast in shonen shows, but they actually have a lot of badass or important female characters, which I really like. But overall, yeah, I like Soul Eater a lot. It's got great action. You know, the animation by Bones is pretty much great throughout. I can't complain about that. You know, voice acting, you know. We didn't talk about it much. The music, I've listened to the soundtrack. Like, it's one of those shows I think where like the music works perfectly within the show, but it's not the type of music I want to listen to like on my iPod like by itself. That's at least my personal opinion of it. I really liked how the show, like I said, it did great action. You know, it could get, like you said earlier, Andrew, it could get really dark and serious when it wanted to, but also had a lot of lighthearted stuff. And it does a better job than most shonen shows, I think, of integrating humor even when it got dark. You know, like throughout like any point in the show, you know, you'd have something to laugh at. You know, they'd at least have like one joke in an episode, and some of them were like laugh out loud, like hilarious, like the Excalibur stuff, or like some of that stuff with Black Star and, you know, Soul Eater, or with Kid, you know,
all the characters.
Pretty much, you know, everyone had funny moments throughout the show. The ending is a little bit wonky, you know. Some people obviously really hate it. Some people I think there's some division on that. Some people like it, some people hate it. I'm sort of in the middle on it. And I think I ranked, like, when I did my top 20 like anime TV shows, I ranked Soul Eater around like 18 or so. So I like really like the show, but It's got some things that hold it back from being like one of my all-time favorites. But it's definitely worth watching, especially if you're a fan of shonen and you don't want to sit through 500 episodes of Naruto or One Piece. This is one that's actually a reasonable length, and that it concludes itself within 51 episodes. So I think we all liked Soul Eater quite a lot here.
It's good.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Sounds like we had a good discussion on it today. For those of you who want to listen to the podcast for next week, we're planning on doing Trigun. We assigned Soul Eater and Trigun as the two anime we're going to sort of watch over the summer. So next week we'll be talking about that particular show. You've seen Trigun, right, Kenny?
I've seen most of it. Yeah, like a while ago I watched a lot of it. That's what got me into it. So I love it.
Okay.
That's why I was recommending it so hard earlier, because it's a really good show, and it was like...
Right. Have you two seen Trigun?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I own it on DVD, and it's also on YouTube subbed, unfortunately. The dub, I think, is superior for Trigun.
I think it's dubbed on Netflix, so.
That's probably true. I watch most of my anime like on Hulu, free Hulu. So most of that is like subbed, and they don't usually put up the dubs for free, unfortunately. But that's the way it goes. So if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you can email us at techheads@avwproductions.com. You can follow us on Twitter at techheadsoU. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, give us a subscribe. We're AVW Media on YouTube. You get to watch all of our content there.
We're everywhere.
Indeed. We've got stuff all over the place. We have a Tumblr, right?
Yes, although that's still being worked on. But we also now have a Pinterest.
Okay.
Boom.
Pinterest. So for those of you, actually my sisters are big into Pinterest,
the rush.
so they should follow us on there. All right. Well, thank all of you for being here with me today for this awesome podcast on Soul Eater. I hope you all had a good time.
Thank you very
naturally.
much.
Of course.
You fool!
Fuck me. And we'll see all of you listeners out there next week when we talk about Trigun.
See
Let's
ya.
do it. Alex Schmidt signing out.
Alex Schmidt signing out.
Vice Alex Schmidt. Signing out.
Collective.
This product is copyright AVW Productions 2012.